of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. I have the rank of Brigadier General. I'm not asking you to fly me. I'm telling you we're going to fly down there.
What was the reaction? You know, there's a lot going on right now.
There's a lot.
And I'm like a little bit at fault here because last time when we were about 5 hours in, you started telling this story and you're like, I'll give you an example. Afghanistan, 2009, poppy everywhere.
Everywhere.
And I'm just sitting there like, wow, okay. Little did I know you were blowing the whistle on the whole USAID thing before this was like cool to do that.
I guess I was.
Congratulations on that. So for everyone out there who's hearing about USAID, they've seen Mike Mercedes-Benz on all these podcasts and stuff talking about it. He's been blowing the whistle on it. Obviously, Elon's working on it. We'll get to that. You know, what was it to you when you were in the CIA? How did you view USAID, and what kinds of things were they doing back then? And then we'll work to today.
To tell you the truth, when I was in the CIA still, I paid very little attention to USAID. I didn't have any interaction with them. Every once in a while, you'd bump into them in, an embassy that you happen to be working in, or most of the big embassies have a bar you can go to after work, and you'd see them having drinks over there. But I never had to interact with them. So with that said, I was aware that USAID was giving money to the National Endowment for Democracy, and there were accusations that that was a CIA front organization. It wasn't a legitimate think tank. And, there's a lot of what you and I might call money laundering going on. Others would say, were private public partnerships. But now it's all coming out. In Afghanistan, in 2009, I wasn't working for the CIA anymore. I was working for the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, and I was under the mistaken belief that I was free to investigate what I wanted, and to make that information public. And in retrospect, I wasn't.
Would you, just for people out there who didn't see episode 250, that was the second one we did. You told that story maybe a couple hours in. Can you just run through what you found there and then how it was shut down, just to review it?
Sure. I was keenly aware that Afghanistan at the time was producing 93% of the world's heroin. So as recently as the 1970s, Afghanistan was a net food exporter. There's not very much land there that's arable. There's not very much water. But the arable land that they have, they made very good use of. And they could feed themselves and export rice to Pakistan and Iran. So that's pretty good for a country that's, 90% mountains.
Yep.
Well, after the Taliban were overthrown, they converted all their food production to opium poppy because it's profitable, right? And as a result, by 2009, after 8 years of, American control or occupation or whatever your politics want you to call it, they accounted for 93% of the world's heroin. So I wanted to go to Afghanistan, and I wanted to investigate this. I was the senior investigator on the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, working for John Kerry at the time.
Your favorite guy?
Yeah, my favorite guy. There's a lot to say about John Kerry. So I'm so grossly disappointed in John Kerry.
Yeah.
So I got the concurrence of the American Embassy in Kabul. I flew out to Afghanistan, and I went to Bagram Air Base. And I had trouble immediately. I said that I wanted to go to Kandahar province and Helmand province in the south. That was the center of poppy cultivation. And they didn't want to fly me. And I did something that I never, ever do. I pulled rank. And I said, listen, I'm a senior staffer of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. I have the rank of Brigadier General. I'm not asking you to fly me. I'm telling you we're going to fly down there.
What was the reaction?
Somebody start up the chopper. I had never done that before. In fact, once I went to Afghanistan, and we were on a 16-seat military plane going to Dubai to catch a commercial flight back to D.C., and it was a whole bunch of generals and a handful of us staffers. And 16 seats on the plane. There were 17 of us. And so this general says, "Oh, I'll stay behind another day." I go, "Absolutely not. I'm not going to be responsible for a general not making it home after finishing his tour in Afghanistan." He said, "No, you outrank me." I said, "Absolutely not." And so I stayed another day in Kabul so he could go home to his family. But anyway, that took me off the subject. So I go to Kandahar. We meet with a handful of people there. And then we fly to Lashkar Gah, which is a village in the center of Helmand province. There was something called a PRT there. That was a State Department, a Provisional Reconstruction Team is what it stood for. A State Department organization. It also had military and had USAID and a couple of other organizations that were represented there. But they were doing things like trying to build an electrical grid or digging water wells, stuff like that. So
net positive things.
Yeah, legit things.
Yeah.
So we get off the helicopter and the State Department people greet us, and I said, I want to just drive out into the poppy fields. Now, when you're coming in to Lashkar Gah, as far as the eye can see, it's just poppy.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean for miles and miles. And you can see these rivers running through the province, and they're diverting water from the rivers just to cultivate the poppy.
Who is doing that?
Well, see, that's an important question. For the most part, it's just itinerant farmers, dirt farmers. And they're being, in some cases, told what to grow. And that became an issue for me. So I said, "Listen, we're going to drive out into the poppy fields." The military escort that I had said, "Absolutely not." And I said, "No, we absolutely are going to drive into the poppy fields because I have questions to ask, right? I'm not doing this for vacation.
Yeah.
I didn't want to go to Afghanistan. This was because the Senate Foreign Relations Committee members had a legitimate interest in it.
You have a job to do.
I had a job to do.
Yeah.
So we get in this Jeep, 2 Jeeps. Security was in one Jeep, and it was me and a driver and a State Department guy, translator, in the other Jeep. We go out into the fields. We find a poppy farmer. So I ask him this very naive question. And I said, "Why do you grow poppy when instead you could be growing things with 2 growing seasons, like tomatoes or onions or pomegranates?" He was very frustrated. He goes, "Oh, the Americans told me in 2001, if I told them where the Arabs were, I could grow all the poppy I wanted." And I said, "What Americans told you could grow poppy?" As soon as I said it, the military guys were like, "Meeting over." And they pull me back into the Jeep. "We're under threat." There's nobody out there but us. We go back to the base. So I fly back a couple of days later. And I called one of my contacts at DEA and I said, "I got to write this paper, but I want to talk to you first because I saw some stuff that's just not right."
Yeah.
So they've got this secret facility out in the sticks in Virginia. I drive out there and I told them everything I had seen. And the one guy says to me, "You're never going to get this paper published." And I said, "Why not?" It's all first person. I saw it with my own eyes. Plus, I interviewed, DEA and a whole bunch of different people that could be quoted. So he said, "You don't get it. Yeah, it's 93% of the world's poppy, but it all goes to Russia and Iran, and we want them to be addicted to it. It weakens their societies. It weakens their cultures. We want them to be addicted to drugs."
Can I ask a really, really difficult question here that sucks to ask?
Sure.
I think that's horrible.
It's awful.
It's awful.
Yeah.
Trying to play devil's advocate with the emphasis on devils. It's being done to us like crazy with fentanyl.
Absolutely.
So could you, not to excuse it or say in any way they should do it, but could you see where the reactionary human emotion comes from in the decision makers, where it's not just necessarily like, let's be evil. They're more like, them, they're doing it to us, we're going to do it to them.
Without a doubt. And that's why this lefty supports Donald Trump's decision to send troops to the border and to crack down on China.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they do it to us.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the better way
Yeah.
to deal with this stuff, is to use your resources to stop it and not
There
have
you
to
go.
do it to someone else, because you're funneling taxpayer money through poppy fields.
Yeah, poppy fields. And the funny thing too is you look at these charts that are produced by DEA, and it's the amount of poppy produced in Afghanistan over the last 40 years.
Mm-hmm.
The years that the Taliban were in charge, they produced almost no poppy. And then in 2001, they didn't produce any poppy at all.
They were terrible businessmen. That's the problem. It's just, it's a business thing, John. We're good at that here. We bring New York City out there. We bring our public companies. We know how to spend money. They don't know how to do that.
I'll tell you another thing that they're not very good at. When I was out there, one of the military guys that I was working with showed me a satellite photo of Afghanistan, of southern Afghanistan, taken at night. Okay, so it was measuring heat production, and there were these little pinpricks of light all over southern Afghanistan. I said, "What is that? They can't be villages; they're too small." And he said, "They're hair processors."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what it is. Every little house, every little mud hut or shack that's out there in the fields, at night, you're not going to farm at night. So at night, you cook the poppy.
Thank you for watching the video, guys. If you haven't already subscribed, please smash that subscribe button and check out this clip's full podcast episode by clicking here or in the description below.